I love the spirit of our judicial system and our laws because here's the point. Like, you can have a criminal defendant that is blatantly guilty. That person still has constitutional rights and a right to due process no matter what the circumstances. So, even if Elon and Doge are uncovering fraud, they still have to follow the rules because if you can justify not following the rules, then you can come up with any solution where you can justify anything. And that is dangerous.
So let me fix this real quick. Get rid of the Department of Education. There you go.
What's
It's
that?
done. Because you said that's how he accessed people's information was through the
Well, it's
Department
not.
of Education,
It's
correct?
not. It's not just the Department of Education. Also through the
Oh, is it
Department of
more than?
Treasury. The Treasury,
Oh,
yeah.
well, now see, now how did he get a hold of that information? Why wasn't there anyone to stop him?
They
Like,
tried.
how could they try and not be able to stop him? That's confusing.
Okay,
Are you
so
saying our
this gets
government doesn't work?
well.
We're broken? I'm being very facetious right now, if you can
I
tell.
know, but no, that's a legit question. So basically, they were
Democracy is a fucking joke.
tr- Musk and Doge essentially threaten them to get in, and then it takes the courts a while to do things, which they actually did this pretty quick. I think it was only a matter of 2 weeks before they got the injunction, which is quite
Separation of powers. What? Dancing real close to violating the separation of powers.
well. Technically,
I,
they already have,
I'm not
but
dancing.
I don't dance. Don't
I just
dance.
pull up my pants and do the rock away. Now lean back.
Technically, they have violated the separation of powers, but in the ways that they have, there have already been several court injunctions to stop them or block them from doing so, i.e., the 14th Amendment. I know I keep going back to it, but that might be the most egregious example of Trump needs to get away from these idiot lawyers that are advising him because some of these motherfuckers are stupid,
Either that, or they know they're going to get away with it. And nothing's going to happen
but they're
because
not. They're not.
look at the last administration and what they got away with. I think we're okay. And
Well, okay,
I'm
no,
not saying they should,
that's
but at the same
demonstrably not
time,
true.
dude, we need insane reform like within our own government. Like
Bro,
it's insane.
here's what I mean when I'm calling their lawyers stupid. Like, okay,
Oh,
so it says right at the outset of the Constitution that
he'd be
the
tried.
what's that?
He said, "How would you feel if Trump ignored the courts and caused a constitutional crisis?" I said he would be tried.
That's the beauty of the Constitution. He wouldn't be able to.
Exactly. See, this is the thing where like, and I'm not saying obviously you don't know anything about America because obviously you do, but like literally how we react to certain things. Like if it has anything to do with the Constitution, yeah, we're gonna hang somebody over it. Especially
Legit.
even if he's a president, like if he did something to literally go against it. Like,
Well, but that's what
sorry.
I keep trying to say. He already has, but he's been stopped.
Well, the 14th Amendment,
Yeah,
but you said he
but
was stopped.
yeah, there was a court injunction that blocked it. They said, no, you don't have the authority to do this.
Well, a constitutional crisis would mean that he was successful in what he did. So he was stopped, in your
Right.
opinion. So therefore,
Well,
nothing
that's not my
happened.
opinion. A judge, like several judges have said, absolutely not. The president does not have the authority to amend or change the Constitution.
What is the 14th Amendment? Just ask.
The section that they're talking about specifically deals with birthright citizenship. The 14th the 14th Amendment was ratified. It was one of the civil rights amendments after the Civil War. Specifically, the point they're talking about is birthright citizenship that says anyone who was born in the United States and subject to its jurisdiction is a citizen of the United States. Now, here's why his lawyer's a fucking idiot. And Vivek Ramaswamy in this case.
I favor ending birthright citizenship for the kids of illegal immigrants in this country. Now, the left will howl about the Constitution and the 14th Amendment. The difference between me and them is I've actually read the 14th Amendment. What it says is that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the laws and jurisdiction thereof are citizens. So nobody believes that the kid of a Mexican diplomat in this country enjoys birthright citizenship. Not a judge or legal scholar in this country will disagree with me on that. Well, if the kid of a Mexican diplomat doesn't enjoy birthright citizenship, then neither does the kid of an illegal migrant who broke the law to come here.
So they're making the argument that since since people who are undocumented in the United States who are not citizens are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. That is fucking stupid on its face. Because if you're not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, then you cannot be prosecuted for any crime, civil or federal. I'm sorry, civil or criminal, because you're. I'm
Well, don't
sorry.
they just send them back? They send them back to their
The
origin
but but the
country
but
of
the
origin.
but the issue isn't the immigrants. The issue is the children that are born.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're not just going to leave those kids here. Like if somebody gets like, I mean, that kid would probably go into the system, foster care or whatnot. But like,
Well, but here's the other thing too. So there's been
don't break a country's law.
okay,
I
all
know.
right,
It sounds horrible, but at the same time, you go into other countries, they'll kill you for it.
not that many. It's also not that simple. Like the number one comment that just irks the shit out of me lately is just do it legally. Explain to me how to do it legally.
Port of entry.
But that's it's not that simple.
Sure, it is.
No, it's
What's so
not.
hard
I
about it?
guarantee because you have to have a visa of some type to enter the country.
Well, wouldn't you go there and claim asylum if you're asylum seeking?
Theoretically, but that's assuming that you can get there.
They got to ride those coyotes.
They gotta ride those coyotes. Was okay, I got comment, but isn't JD Vance and Elon Musk encouraging him to do so? Because that's what it looks like, not trying to be antagonistic. No, I'm not taking it. This is a spirited debate and I like it. What are you talking about specifically, Justin, that JD and Elon are encouraging him to do? So he's
Well, he
a
said
big
because yeah,
sent home and now the kid is a ward of the state. Theoretically, Toast, that's why a lot of people have been clamoring for literal decades about some kind of immigration reform, because here's the problem. It's not easy to legally immigrate to the United States. It's just not. It's not easy. It's not cheap. It's not fast. And a lot of it is temporary.
Stop wasting your time on manually editing your videos. The secret AI tool will do the work for you. One of the best things about it is that it gives your video the potential to go viral. Visit this page, sign in, create a project by clicking on this button. Choose a video that you want to use. Click on the AI clip button. Wait for the magic. It is scanning through the video and looking for the parts that has the potential to go viral. Instead of editing the video by yourself, it does the work for you. It even generates headline and captions which fit your video. Another surprise is that they generate video description or social post for you to use. Once done, click export to post.
The reason we have an illegal immigration crisis is because I think it was in 1996, Clinton, of all people, or I should say under the Clinton administration, really stiffened the penalties for illegally entering the country. You used to have a ban, like let's say prior to, I think it was 1996, it might have been earlier, but I'm going to say 96. It was in the 90s. Let's say that you got caught crossing the border illegally into the United States, right? You might get a ban of 6 months from crossing the border, right? It wasn't that big of a deal. Like you'd be penalized and there was usually some kind of fine, but it wasn't that big of a deal. When they stiffened the penalties, what that did was people didn't want to risk getting caught crossing the border illegally, so they just stayed. Because what a lot of people were doing was just coming over and working for like a season for farm work or coming over for 6 months, then going back, blah, blah, blah. It really wasn't that big of a problem. But of course, fucking Newt Gingrich-esque Republicans were like, we gotta stop the fucking brown people from making any money. I don't know why
kind of like
Newt Gingrich sounds like
Nixon.
Nixon's back.
He sounded just like
he
Nixon.
was a Republican too. No, but when they stiffened the penalties, and like I'm giving full credit to the Clinton administration because it was during a largely Democrat administration that they did this because they stiffened the penalties, right? So now
And
you
they
can
had
get up to a 10-year ban, dude. Like, well, you say that, but
You wouldn't like my stance on that. I'd
Well,
say
but
if
here's
you want to stop illegal immigration completely, if you get caught one time, you're never allowed back in this country. And if you come back in, like you're gonna go to prison or something. Not prison, but like I don't know. Like
okay, but
I'm
what
just
about somebody? What
we've
about
gotten to the point to where it's more of a it's more of an issue. Like it's not like how it was like back in the 90s, all
it's
love and
a
joy. Like there are
but
people
that's
getting killed left and right. And it's not the fact that like good people
because
hold
it's
on, it's not
illegal.
the fact that good people are getting caught.
But
It's the
they
bad
are.
people not getting caught. Like I'm
Right,
talking,
right.
the murderers and the rapists and
Right.
whatnot. And everybody's like, and it's like, no, not all of them, you fucking idiot. Stop taking everything
No,
like
but
so matter of fact.
here's the problem though. Because of how our laws are now, the people that are really paying for it are the people that are just trying to get here and live a better life. Because the criminals don't give a fuck. They
Agree.
don't give a fuck if they get sent back.
And to be fair, Homan did say that he wasn't going after those people.
I mean, and if you look at the raw numbers, that thus far has been mostly true. There have been some reports, and I say reports with a grain of salt because I don't, it may or may not be accurate.
Can't
There
trust the
have,
publications.
well, no, here's the thing though. There have been confirmed reports of people being arrested, but not necessarily deported. And in fact, this one flew under the radar. A lot of those people who were detained by ICE, a lot of the non criminal history people, and who didn't have existing removal orders were released. Like now they have court
Imagine
dates, but they
that.
were released. Yeah. Well, I have a hunch they were released because the ICE facilities are, I think, at 140% capacity. So there's an issue there. But here's the thing I really want to get back to though is the fact that so many people. Okay, here's a perfect example, right? So TPS stands for temporary protected status. It is a what would you call that? It was a program created by the government, and I get it, temporary's in the name, right? But here's the thing. So before Trump was sworn in, the Biden administration extended TPS for I think it was 6 countries, right? For another 18 months. It gets reevaluated every 18 months. Then they went back, the Trump administration went back in that bitch Christy Nome, because I hate that hunt. Anyway, she, as the Secretary of Homeland Security, decided it would be a good idea to rescind the extension and then cancel the TPS extension for, I know it was for Venezuela. I think they're evaluating other countries. Their logic being that the situation in Venezuela is better, except that it's not because the leader, I say in air quotes, of Venezuela just rigged a fucking election.
Imagine that.
Well, it's not okay. But here's my point. Because of that bureaucratic decision, in April, approximately 600, as much as 650,000 people will now become technically illegal,
Damn.
purely due to a pen stroke. That is why our immigration system is completely fucked because we gave these people permission to be here, and now we're like, nah. Now, people are going to argue and say, well, yeah, but it was always temporary. Yes, it's temporary, but it's based on the conditions of the country in question. And I'm sorry, but when you got a motherfucker that rigs democratic elections to stay in power, that ain't a safe fucking place to be.
I agree
So,
with you there. See? I'm not full asshole.
but okay, so I would, if I were president or emperor,
Emperor.
if I were emperor,
Emperor Pilaf. In Venezuela.
yeah,
Toast.
Maduro.
Maduro oblongata.
Singing that my fault, you should get
Something
your
wrong
you
with
should
this
get
is
your
Maduro oblongata.
Okay. So yes,
Emperor Jake.
if I were emperor, I would amend the TPS program to where if that designation lasted for more than 2 years, there would be a built-in path to citizenship for those that qualify that want it. Because I'm sorry, if your country's completely fucked for 2 years and you're not safe to go back, I feel like that's an automatic asylum claim.
Honestly, immigration should be difficult, except for asylees.
No, it shouldn't. Immigration should be so unbelievably easy because if it's easy, simple, and cheap,
When I say
then
difficult, I don't mean that they should have to do several hoops. I mean it should be like 10 years. Like, and I know that sounds crazy, but like,
You
like,
mean like the process?
yeah, because
Okay, fair enough. Well,
remain in your
it
country unless it's
no.
asylum seeking. Like,
Well, no,
I
because
mean,
if you're moving for economic reasons, 10 years is way too long.
well, how much do we give? Like, because I remember seeing that. Like, is there a certain amount of money, like food
Jake
stamps or
Pinochet.
whatnot? Like, how does that? Maybe you might know more on this. Like, how much would an average? I can't think right now. How much would an average immigrant get on like I can't fucking speak
You mean
the
like a government program?
food stamps and whatnot because
Virtue
like I remember some of
none.
them so then why did some of them have it? Was that
They
California only?
that would have been an in-state thing. Federally,
Okay,
they do
okay.
not. The
See,
vast
that's what I'm saying. I
majority
didn't
of
know.
Yeah, the vast majority of particularly undocumented immigrants do not, they're ineligible. And I like to remind everybody when they were doing the COVID stimulus payments, if you were not at least a green card holder or a citizen, you did not get any money, even if you were here legally and paying taxes. You had to be a qualifying green card holder. I think if you had an H1, some kind of employment visa, you may have. I'd have to check on that. I'm not sure. But even if you had a TIN number and were paying taxes into the state and federal government, you did not necessarily qualify for the COVID aid. And it's the same
S-
thing with the vast majority of aid programs. Like, yeah, if you go to an emergency room, you're going to get treatment, but that's anybody, whether you can pay or not.
So I believe you are wrong, sir. So according to the USDA government website, SNAP eligibility for non-citizens, refugees or asylees or survivors of trafficking may qualify. So
Yeah,
it says
okay.
may, to be
Well,
fair, but the thing is, they could still qualify. And to be honest with
no,
you, like it
the qualification is if they get a green card because of those reasons, in which case then they're a permanent resident.
no,
There,
this is immigration status,
I
refugees,
know,
asylees, survivors,
I know,
so
but
they can get SNAP.
you have to be granted those designations though. And if you get that
Yeah.
designation, you are not undocumented.
So now, what about asylum seeking?
You
Do
have if
they
you no, you do not qualify until you have been granted
so you
asylum.
have that status?
You have to be given that status. Now, if you have a pending asylum claim, you are protected from deportation while your case is pending, so long as you don't have like a certain types of felony convictions.
And it says undocumented non-citizens are not eligible. So there you go.
Yeah.
I just cleared it up. I should just read further.
Yeah. Well, no, but that's how people get into trouble because like
But then
it's
why
really
even say
confusing.
refugees, asylees, or survivors of trafficking may qualify when you could just say immigrants? Like, because
Well,
when
because
people,
just because you're granted that status, you may not necessarily qualify.
well, asylum seeking it has a dirty ring to it nowadays because
It
of how they've
does.
politicized it. Because like everybody assumes that people who are asylum seeking jumped the border and didn't go through the port of entry, and not all of them have. So plenty go to the ports of entry. Some of them jump the border, but
Well, but
like I
I
mean,
guess,
it is what it is.
and here's my kind of my viewpoint on that. This is why I didn't agree with Remain in Mexico. If you are seeking asylum, chances are you're trying to escape violence. Well, you'd have to be escaping violence. That's why you would be seeking asylum. Your first priority, if you're leaving a dangerous country, is to get somewhere safe, right? So, step one, get to the US. Once you're there, then you claim asylum. And then you have your case pending and all that. But your number one goal, if your asylum claim is legitimate, step one is get to the safe place, right? Now, the problem I have with, and again, so the word illegal gets thrown out way too much when it comes to immigration. It's actually really difficult to be here illegally. It truly is. A lot of people do it, but illegal gets thrown around with undocumented a lot. And the thing is, most undocumented, in air quotes, immigrants are people who actually lost some kind of legal status, not that they didn't have any to begin with. So, for example, like there's a lot of confusion about DACA. DACA was a status that was granted by the federal government for people who were brought here as children. They did not knowingly cross the
Wasn't DACA
border.
an executive order?
No, it's a law. It's legislation.
I could have sworn it was an
No,
executive order.
you're right. I'm
Dreamers.
sorry. I'm sorry. They've been trying to pass legislation. You're right.
Okay, because Trump was trying to force them to pass legislation, and they
He
just wanted
was.
to fucking sit on their hands.
That's true. That's true. And I gave credit to Trump at the time. So I was like, at least he's trying to fucking do something about it. But here's
Well,
my
yeah,
problem.
because he doesn't like executive, even though he uses them. Like,
Oh, he
from
loves
what I
executive
from,
orders. He just likes his executive orders. But here's my point when it comes to DACA. If, and this would be the fault of the legislature, mind you, not Trump. But like recently, certain parts of DACA were found to be unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. So if that status, which has been in place since 2014, I think, maybe even before that, I can't remember, but it's been in place for at least 10 years. So some of the people who were granted it as children are now adults who have college degrees and have jobs and families. If that status were revoked, they are now technically here undocumented, air quotes, illegally. Now, I don't know
if you
about
are
you.
enrolled, if you're enrolled or you're like blah, and and that goes away, it's like that should just be granted. Like that's
But it's
just
not, and
dumb.
that's the problem. Because here's the thing.
Uh,
So like,
I
oh,
guarantee you,
go ahead.
if it came down to that, like Trump would, I don't know, like he'd be like, okay, so he even said we're not getting rid of dreamers, like
Right,
so.
but that may be outside of his ability to do. If DACA is found to be unconstitutional and can't be upheld, then that status goes away. There's nothing Trump can do about it. Now, he can direct them not to enforce it, but that gets kind of precarious.
Exactly what Justin was talking about earlier, or about saying about JD Vance. Hold on.
Actually, so asylum, it's actually,
Toast has worked up a couple of comments.
yeah, it's actually really hard to get asylum. You have to meet one of five criteria.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely. And you have to. It's hard.
it's really difficult. They're very specific, and I actually don't agree with how strict the U.S. I don't know about Canada. Canada may have a more laxed asylum policy. In the United States, it's actually really hard to
You're
get
good,
asylum.
Toast.
No, no, you're good. We love it.
He says immigration should work on vetting basis, in my opinion.
Yeah.
What
See,
skills can you offer the
I
country you're
don't.
moving to? Exactly. Because the
Well,
thing is, just because you're looking for a better life, and Eli, I hate to say it like this, dude, because like it makes me sound heartless. Because unfortunately for me, I mean, fortunately for me, I was born here.
yeah.
I can't help that. That's my parents. Blame them.
Those damn Americans. I would just like to remind everybody their immigration policy used to be show up on a boat at Ellis Island and be able to scribble something.
He says Canada, you can do a fucking cartwheel through the border and make it
Yeah, no,
in.
that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand is it's like I
Dude,
said before, it's really hard to get asylum in the United States.
seriously, Toast, dude, your comment about them making their own country better, and like I'm not saying they shouldn't, but the thing is, these other leaders in charge, like let's just talk about Mexico, the president, if they wanted to make Mexico better, they would.
That's
Simple as
not
that.
that's a little cut and
Simple as
dry.
that. I
Not
mean,
really.
it should be like if you're the president of the
Well,
fucking
okay, okay,
country,
then
like
why didn't we make it better under Biden then by using your logic?
economic can't control
Okay.
economics. We can control who comes in. We can control gangs, and we can control violence, whatnot through policing. Like I'm not. You're speaking purely economics on Biden. Like past that, like everything was just fucking horrible economically when it came to Biden. But just because Mexico doesn't. I don't know, and I'm not just talking on Mexico. I'm talking any of them. Like,
I'm
what?
just saying
Why?
it's not
If
cut
they
and
wanted to make their
dry.
countries better, well, that's what I'm saying. Though the people have to want it too.
Well, okay,
That
that's a little unfair because like Afghanistan.
I'm not saying all of them don't. I'm
I'm
just saying
just
some of them
saying.
like it that way. I mean, to be
Well,
fair,
right,
like
right,
there's a lot of criminals around
well,
the
okay,
world.
but I'm going to use Afghanistan as an example, and because like this might be a little unfair, like
Well, they're not
Afghanistan
on our
now.
border, so I'm not really worried about them
Well, no, but there's a lot of Afghan
coming in
refugees
through.
and
Yeah,
immigrants. Well, but legit, I can't think of much more of a legitimate reason to leave than the Taliban being in fucking control. And I read an article about an Afghan woman who's in the United States. She's at a I can't remember if she was studying or she was a teacher, but she might lose her immigration status. And if she does, she'll get deported to Afghanistan and be promptly stoned to death.
that's
Now, it
wild.
hasn't happened yet, but it could
Yeah, I
because of
don't.
the ambiguities.
I try not to fly on what ifs. If it's
Well, now the
happening,
thing,
that's why that's like when COVID happened. I was like, are people dropping dead in the street? No, it's not scary. Sorry.
Eh.
Like I remember when everybody was like, when it first came out, my dad literally, I was working. He's like, you need to get home. There's a virus out. I was like, calm down.
Yeah, I agree. The Afghan woman would be a genuine refugee. And the thing is, though, they could grant that with the stroke of a pen.
Yeah, and
But,
also, dude, turning our countries into the countries they left. That seriously, like that makes no fucking sense. When you left the country you hate, and yet you want to turn this into that. Like, make
well,
sense of
okay,
that, people.
okay. So by virtue of that logic, we should no longer celebrate St. Patrick's Day ever.
I'd be okay with that. It's a stupid holiday.
Fuck. Okay. Damn it.